APMI conversation series. You know, I'll be honest, I was part of handpicking the couple of bands that we started this whole series with, and I'm very, very excited to bring out Motionless in White. I gotta start practicing my WWE.
Wrestling calls.
So, guys, Musicians Institute.
This is huge.
Did you ever think being in a band meant that you would be in a school?
Never.
Considering I don't know shit about proper education of music, not at all.
Well, luckily you've had an education through the reality of music, so I think that there's a nice balance. And I know something I learned the last time I was here, that a lot of students, you know, it's not just guitar players, it's not just drummers, there's people who are interested in producing, who are interested in being booking agents and managers. So what we like to do with this whole thing is really just kind of get inside everybody's head a little bit about how they got into doing this, what some of the steps were to get to where they are. And then we're going to turn it over to you guys to ask some questions. So first, let's start. Everybody knows who everybody is up here, right? Let's have you introduce yourselves anyway, and tell us who you are and what you play in the band.
My name is Chris, and I attempt to sing for Motionless in White.
I'm Ricky, I play guitar.
I'm Ryan, and I also play guitar.
And I'm Balls, and I play keyboards.
Perfect. And we are missing a member, but he is a ghost, so he might actually be here.
He's
for all
here
we
in
know.
spirit.
Yeah, exactly.
If you feel that tickle in the back of your neck.
I do. It's cold. It's scratchy. So yeah, what I'd like to do first, just to get us going here, is to kind of go down the row, basically, and we can start with you, Balls, down at the other side.
Pressure's on.
Pressure's on.
Dun, 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 dun. Thank you for not picking me first.
That just made me think of a really awesome SNL sketch, but they'll just drive this conversation right into a ditch. Let's talk about music, and specifically, what was the first music that you heard, like around the house? What were some of the first bands you got into? And what initially gave you that spark of like, I don't want to just listen to this, I want to participate, I want to be part of this?
I think for me, I just always hung out with my dad. So it was always like that Pink Floyd, Led Zeppelin, Beatles. Like that was my whole Black Sabbath. My dad was just a biker, so it wasn't ever metal. He never listened to like Slayer or like anything that heavy, but it was just mostly, you know, the chill like stoner music, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's what I've been into that for so long.
Was your dad in the Sons of Anarchy?
Probably. My dad's scary. He's so biggest, scariest dude. You've just bald.
Bob Balls.
Bob Balls. It's very scary. But I mean, I've shaping music. I think your friends shape your music, who you hang out with. You know, I started skateboarding, hanging out with the worst friends ever, but worst best friends. But we used to listen to, you know, like the Fall of Troy, stuff like that, and I was super into like, I don't know, Hawthorne Heights and that stuff. I was super emotional, I guess you would say. But getting into the music that we play now, I mean, when I started hanging out with like, I knew Chris first. Probably 8 years ago. When I first met him, I forget what I showed him. It was like Nicky FM, the Hawthorne Heights song. I was like, listen to this breakdown. It's so heavy. And he's like, you don't know what you're talking about. And he put on Poison the Well, and it was the heaviest thing I've ever heard in my life. And from then it was, you know, it was like, I feel like Atreyu, Poison the Well, Avenged, like all of those bands kind of brought me into like heavier stuff. And then you kind of like, you start here and you're like, I don't understand. I had a friend that listened to Cradle of Filth religiously. And I was like...
No pun intended.
Yeah. And I was like, what is this stuff? I can't understand one word, and now it's like they're one of my favorite bands, and you know, very influenced by, you know, keyboard-wise and piano-wise. They're just... I feel like it's a formula. You listen to once you start to listen to rock, you just get heavier and 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 heavier, and you never like go back. And then you get old. I guess you start listening to Brand New and just polka and that stuff. But
I'm old and I just went to go see the Cro-Mags, so no, it never
big deal.
happened.
No big deal. I don't even know
How many
if I answered
stage
the
dives
question.
did you do? How many stage dives?
It was so hot and I'm so old that I just watched through the window, I'll be honest.
But I honestly forgot the question in my answer, so I'm just gonna.
So how did this lead from getting into heavier and heavier music to you actually playing heavy music? What were your early band experiences?
I was a singer in a band once, and it was probably atrocious. I don't remember.
He wouldn't show it to us.
I wouldn't
He like
show-
refused. He refused to show us the MySpace link or something like that.
I was super into like Seosin and Taking Back Sunday and Armor for Sleep and stuff like that. So I used to like throw the microphone around and like be really just dramatic on stage, and I will never ever show it. They have no idea. I have a video of it. Never will show anybody ever.
I am a reporter.
You might find it. And the ironic thing is
Dig up those bones.
we were named. I didn't. My friends came with the name Belvedere, which I found out is the name of a vodka, and I'm straight edge. Just completely didn't know that I was singing for a band that was named after alcohol. So there was that. And I feel like I forgot the question again.
No, you're right. You're answering the question, actually. So how did you go from Belvedere to being the Lecter and Cradle of Filth of Motionless and White, so to speak?
I'm just hanging out with Chris and Angelo, our old drummer. They used to listen to way heavier music, like Norma Jean, like Cradle of Filth, Poison the Well, stuff like that. And I actually just used to hang out with them. I wasn't in the band. I would just hang out with them, like do their merch, help Angelo set up his drums, just hanging out. And then one day we were at practice. They were at practice, and one of the dudes didn't show up. And they're like, "Can you play this stuff?" I'm like, "Sure, whatever." It was like a D note, and that was the entire song. And I was like, "I think I got it." And I still can only play that D note, so we're there.
Your name is, it's hard to remember.
Hank.
Hank. Yeah, that's my name too.
No, it's Ryan.
We have the same name. That's why it's hilarious to me. Let's hear a little bit about your story. First music that you heard, and who got you into music. And
Kind of started around like the same kind of way with my father, but it was like Van Halen was what he jammed out to the most, and still to this day I will listen to that as well.
was he David Lee Roth or Sammy Hagar, or both?
I think he liked David Lee Roth more, but either way, he was always jamming, and like AC/DC and shit like that. And probably not till I was like 12, I started hearing like heavier music, like Slipknot, and then Korn and Avenged, and then started like hearing more of the screamo stuff, like Under Oath, and bands like that. And I picked up guitar and tried to play stuff like that, and then took lessons for about a year, quit, and pretty much taught myself the whole way until now. And I just met like Chris and the old drummer and our old guitar player through local shows, and hung out more often. And then eventually I just got my shot with the band one summer, and been with them ever since. So here I am now.
Awesome. It's your turn.
I so badly want to add like my side, because I've been in the band since the original, so like there's small little details that I want to add.
Jump in. No, that's why we're here.
Ryan got a shot in the band because our other guitar player at the time, his girlfriend made him quit.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah, right.
And then we told everybody that he quit because he wanted to be a professional golfer.
Yeah, she like made him quit. So we were just like, well, who do we know? I'd rather go with somebody that we know personally that can play than just some random person that we could try to find on the internet, which is funny, as that's how we found two of our members. But later on, but yeah, we knew Ryan really well, and it was more so just a matter of wanting to have a friend in the band than just a dude that could play. So that's a fun fact to add to your story, I think.
And I've interviewed a lot of bands over the years, and I have to say that girlfriends, wives, boyfriends, husbands, they've ruined a lot of bands. Sad fact of life. And props to the ones who don't.
To start, I guess my dad had a billion CDs of, like Black Sabbath, Ozzy, Van Halen, AC/DC, all that kind of stuff. So that was my first kind of introduction to music.
CDs were those plastic things.
Yes.
Had
The thing
CD
that don't
stores.
exist
Yeah,
anymore,
I
that
remember
no
those.
one buys and no one cares about. And so that was my first introduction to music. And actually, my first album I ever personally bought was the Marshall Mathers LP, which was kind of like a step in the opposite direction. I don't know why.
You came from a rough past.
Yeah, I guess. Down on 8 Mile.
That is the record with the video that had Marilyn Manson in it.
Yes.
So
It is.
I connect dots that way.
So my first, I think, actually the reason that I started playing guitar was not because I really had any interest in it. It's because I was in middle school. I had a bunch of friends that were trying to start some. I wouldn't even call it it was not even a garage band, because it was so bad that it was like a basement band. We would play in the basement, and I just wanted to, yeah, and I wanted to be a part of it just because they were my friends, and I wanted something cool to do on the weekends or whatever, just with them. And so I begged my parents to buy me a guitar just so that I could attempt to be in the band. And so I did that. I got lessons for probably 6 months, and then I quit, just like Ryan, and I self-taught for the rest of the way. And then after that band, I ended up being a front man for a screaming band a few years later, and I'm trying to connect my past dots here.
So there's a lot of lead singer attitude in this band, is what we're saying.
Yes.
Tell me about it, Ryan.
Yeah.
LSD, as Eddie Van Halen likes to call it, lead singer's disease. The 3 of them.
So then that band didn't work out, and it's actually funny going back to that because I played in a lot of shows as a local band to bands that we have been on tour with and played with. So that's kind of an interesting thing that I noticed, and
that's encouraging, honestly, for people who are in local bands, opening for national bands. Like, you might be on tour with those bands someday.
Yeah. Very weird. And the funny part is I never bring that up, just because I don't want the awkward conversation of, hey, you remember this 10 years ago? Probably not. So so yeah, and then I met these guys just by chance. I ended up going to one of their shows, and I had talked to Chris online, a few times here and there. And then I went to the show, talked to him, and then they were touring in a van and didn't have a whole lot of money. And so I was like, if you guys need a place to stay, you can come stay at our house. We have more than enough room. You can shower, do whatever you need to. And the whole time that they were there, they were like, you have to be in our band. I'm like,
I was just about to say,
yeah.
You have no idea how bad I want to join in this.
Please do.
You can go a little bit more. And
Okay.
I'll jump in.
And so I grew up in Seattle, or the outskirts of Seattle. So at the time, it was like, yeah, right. How would that ever work with them being from Pennsylvania? And they just kept saying, him and our other guitar player, or our old guitar player TJ, they just kept saying, you have to play for us. And I'm like, how is that supposed to work? You guys have all your members, I just didn't get the backside of it.
Leave that to us.
Yeah, pretty
That's
much.
so badly what I want to tell. Yeah.
And so then Chris and I just kind of kept in touch over the next few months, and then he called me one day randomly and said, hey, do you want to play bass for the band? But the catch is, you have to buy your own gear and you have to move to Pennsylvania. I was like, fair enough. I'm on my way. So then I ended up living with him for probably a year, just And going back, thinking about it, it's just crazy to think about because I had no idea who any of them were. I had no idea who they were as people. So I just left my home and just moved in with someone
We did contemplate raping and murdering you, but we figured you were more valuable on the stage.
I'm glad that
Is that off the table, or is that still a possibility?
We'll see what happens on the downslope.
That's pretty much the start and the now, or up to now, I guess.
And real quick, I know he's chomping at the bit. Growing up in the Pacific Northwest, what was the culture shock like to then be in semi-rural Pennsylvania?
Very interesting, because I mean, it's a huge city, obviously, and where they live is, where I live now is a super small town. It's like you have to drive 30 minutes to go to a mall, anywhere where there's, anything, restaurants.
Anyone but Amish people?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And everything else around is just small diners and family-owned businesses and stuff. So that was really interesting for me. But now being there, it's funny because everyone that lives there is like, I hate this place. I want to leave, and I love it. And now being there, I don't want to leave. I want to just stay there forever. So.
The grass is always greener, as they say, right? Like
yeah.
Yeah, sure.
You can just get a Chipotle, so moving up.
So as the Scranton resident OG, tell us a little bit about how you got into all this stuff.
My story is, I'm pretty sure, the longest, or maybe that's just because I talk way too much. But yeah, I mean, I'm the only last remaining original member of the band. So I mean, I go back way further than these guys, obviously. But yeah, I mean, to go off what they said, my dad, or the early life of me and my exposure to music was, my dad was pretty much the same thing: Black Sabbath, Led Zeppelin. Always tried to get me to listen to Led Zeppelin, and I never wanted any part of it. Like, there was like fights caused as a kid because I just refused to listen to it. I wasn't really into music. I was into video games. Like, all I wanted to do was play Nintendo and just be a kid, go outside, ride my bike. Like, I used to be super into sports, really outdoors, bike, baseball, street hockey, basketball, anything I could do to like be active. That's what I wanted to do. My grandfather used to want to try to teach, like, he would try to get me to sit down and learn guitar all the time. I just wanted no part of it at all. He even bought...
People look at you right now and they go, I bet that guy's really into sports.
Yeah, right? Yeah. It's a very funny thing to look back on that and be like, wow, I at one point in my life music was not a part of it. And, I've been fortunate enough to tell the in-depth story of that situation with my grandfather on a TV show where I got a tattoo in memory of those early years of my life, where he did buy me the guitar. He did, constantly try to get me to sit down and get off the video games. And I credit that as, although I didn't, take the bait and do it, I feel like that was the planting of the seed that led to all this. Maybe I'm just, looking for a way to memorialize him in a better way up here or in here, but that's how I see it. My dad and him were both super into music, different styles, but yeah, just my mom really into like the Beatles and stuff like that. So I had a well-rounded exposure to different styles of music, and then the band that kind of like lit the spark for me into heavy music was Metallica. Yeah, right. I heard Enter Sandman on TV. I think I saw the music video for it, and I thought that was like scary and heavy, and just I never heard anything like that. So it was really awesome. And then shortly after that, my uncle, who actually plays, my dad's brother, my Uncle Joe, who plays guitar, was at his house one day, and he kind of just put one of his guitars in my lap and just said, "Hey, try to play this." And I was like, "All right, whatever, I'll try it." And I ended up picking it up pretty quick. And literally from that day on, I cannot remember a time in my life where I wasn't addicted or obsessed to playing and learning guitar, or just became, that was my life. Like everything else, I didn't care about sports or anything. It was just like, I want to play guitar, I want to get better at this. And then after a little while of playing guitar, I was like, I want to play drums now. Like I want to, I bugged the shit out of my parents for a drum set, and they were just like, no, you have the guitar.
That's why it's so hard for every starting out band to find a drummer, because nobody's parents wants them to be a drummer.
No parents want to listen to that.
You can't get a little practice amp for your drums.
No. And of course, electronic drum sets are 3 times the price. So I just bugged the shit out of them for the drum set. They finally caved for Christmas one year and bought me like the cheapest one they could find, because they looked at it as it was more so a phase that I was going through, because this is when I was transitioning into being a teenager, and that typical lifestyle change where you do get into the fads and the phases and everything. And at the time, nobody really that I knew was into wanting to be in a band. I just was. I don't know why. I just started. There was just a fire lit that those bands gave me to want to do that. And I just continued for years and years and years. I played guitar every minute of my life that wasn't going to school. I didn't want to be in school anymore. I couldn't wait to get out and just go play guitar and drums and learn how to do that. I never in my life imagined or ever even had any intention of being a singer, ever. Never.
2 would-be singers and 1 would-be not singer.
Yeah, right. So these guys were singers. I wanted to do nothing about that at all. I was the quiet kid in school that was always just kind of chilling in the back, like observing everything, just learning and soaking in my surroundings. And I felt that that's why the drums were my position. I was in the background doing my thing and getting to really have my outlet to let out my personality in a way where playing drums can really let you do. But then comes the story of how the singing thing started. I met some friends in school in early years of high school that played guitar, that did all that stuff, and we just jammed cover songs. Or we met up kind of through our mutual liking of not so heavy bands, bands like New Found Glory or even Blink-182 and stuff like that. Met through that. Just started jamming cover songs.
And are those the kind of covers you guys were doing, like the pop punk stuff?
Yeah, more so because there's so much to explain. I'm trying not to take like all of our time on my story, but I'm forgetting to mention the fact that at this point, early high school is where I'm transitioning from Metallica and Megadeth and Iron Maiden into Misfits, into AFI, into The Cure and Morrissey and all those bands, that each band kind of gatewayed me into the next and exposed me into all those styles. So, I like Blink-182 and New Found Glory and the more poppy stuff and Green Day and all that kind of shit. So I was totally cool. I just wanted to jam. So
you had trouble, as I remember, finding people that were into the Misfits and AFI.
Yeah,
and
there was only
darker kind of horror stuff.
Yep,
So
exactly.
it's sort of like, hey, I'll play with these dudes if it means I get to play.
100%. There was only like one other girl at school that was really into the same stuff, and it was weird because we never really talked until senior year. Like at the very tail end of school was the first time we were ever like, hey. And it was like, why have we talked all of high school? Like, why have we just been? Her name was Jessica. I remember that the day I like exactly of like the first meeting of the two of us, where it was like, hey. It was like the excitement was too overloading,
You're both like, you exist, right? Or did I just imagine you for the last 4 years?
You're the female version I conjured up to be friends with across the room. Anyway. So I found these dudes, and I just wanted to jam, so we just started playing cover songs, and we didn't even have any intention of writing our own stuff. We just wanted to jam. Well, we didn't have a singer, and after a couple months of jamming, it just got boring to be playing the songs over and over and over. So I was just like, you know what? Fuck it. I'll get a microphone. I'll sing into it so we have somebody to fill the space, and then we'll keep looking. Well, I did that for a while. I liked it, hated it, a little bit of whatever. I just didn't want to do it. But we were like in my house in the basement, so.
And were you playing guitar and singing at the same time, or just sing?
No, just playing drums and singing.
Oh, playing drums and singing.
Yeah, that's why I was like, this is never gonna work, So we ended up signing up for our I think it was 9th or 10th grade talent show, and we figured, okay, well maybe through that we could find a singer, find somebody that wants to sing. Just we ended up doing the rehearsals at the auditorium after school, and the guy who ran the talent show, super dickhead, just super mean to everybody. Just he wanted no part of what we were doing because we weren't doing like the girl go up there and sing to a pop act over the record. Like that's what it all was, and he didn't want bands playing.
I'm sure whatever that guy's doing right now, he's got hundreds of people listening to him.
Totally,
talk
yeah.
on stage.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Sperazza, for your encouraging early. He became cool later on. I'll give him the credit. Like after we kind of proved ourselves, he was totally cool and encouraging. But it took a little convincing, and we were terrible. So I totally side with him. We tried to play. I think the song in 9th grade was "All the Small Things" because the guys in the band were like so obsessed with it, and. Try picturing me singing Tom DeLonge stuff. It's just not going to happen. I should have put a video up on it. Maybe they would have called me when Tom left instead of Matt Skiba.
Yeah, you wouldn't be the first dark singer and eyeliner to be in Blink-182.
Yeah.
You never know.
So yeah, we tried out, and the dude was just like, "Nope, you're not doing it. You're not singing and playing drums. You're either going to sing or play drums." And we were like, "Okay, give us 1 week." Couldn't find a singer, so we. Ended up I was like, all right, we really want to do this, so I'll just sing. Screw it. I'll just sing. We ended up changing our song to Hit or Miss by Newfound Glory because I felt like that felt better for me to sing. I just felt more comfortable with it. And we finally got all the way we knew drummers, but we didn't know a singer. So we had this kid named Vinny play drums, and talent show came, and this is like the moment that I knew like, this better be my life, like forever. I'd never want this to not be what I'm doing. Talent show came, curtain open, and like that feeling, dude. You can't feel it unless you're up there experiencing it. And that was my first like exposure to live music and performing in a band. This is the first time we ever played live in front of anybody, and I lost it. I was jumped. Like everyone knew me as like the quiet kid that never spoke and never really did anything, and I just went crazy. It was like everything in that pit that just sat there and wanted to come out was just unleashed. And I got a standing ovation from my homeroom class when I walked in on Monday morning after the talent show, and I was just like, fuck yeah. Like I internally I was like, yeah, that's fucking right, you plot. Even kids I hated and that hated me were just like, good job, Cerulli. I was like, yeah, that's fucking right. So that was the moment that I was like, yep, this is gonna be the rest of my life. And from that point on, all I wanted to do was create music, and then I found band members, and it just grew like that. Like
that was a difficult part of building this band for you, and I think it's a great thing for people to learn when you have. I mean, because you're someone who had a really distinct vision for how you wanted a band to look and to sound, and what references you were drawing from to build your own thing. But you're sitting in Scranton, Pennsylvania, and there's not exactly like 4 other Chris Motionlesses walking around.
Resources were scarce.
Yeah. So, and real quick, by the way, what's interesting, you were talking about Metallica and Megadeth. Both of those bands, exactly like you, they both intended to have singers. Both of those bands auditioned singers.
I did not know that.
And yeah, Hetfield and Mustaine both ended up singing because they couldn't find anybody. So yeah, and even as late as Ride the Lightning, Metallica asked John Bush from Armored Saint to join the band, and he was like, "No, I got this Armored Saint thing going."
Can we hang out in real life more so I can learn this stuff from you?
I'm a nerd. That was the lecture portion of the series. But yeah, tell me about finding people and trying to get them to sort of mold into what you wanted this band to be.
I mean, if you watch, it'll never get released. It's not online either, so you won't have any luck finding it. But I have the tapes like buried in a closet somewhere. You can see the obvious separation between the rest of the guys and me. Like even though they listened to Blink and whatnot and Green Day and everything, they still just looked like everybody else. And then here's me, where at the time I was wearing like all black. I was trying to do like the eyeliner stuff, but terrible at it. Still am. I have to have my girlfriend do my makeup now. Just trying to really find my identity, And that was just the road I wanted to take, because I just wanted to be Davey Havok, and I just wanted to be Glenn Danzig, and that's the image I chose. And I didn't feel it was a phase. I felt it was a role that, I felt that it was a world I was accepted into without really having there was no like gatekeeper that was like, "You're in, sir, here you go." You know, I just felt like I belonged in that whole world of bands, and you know, then later came the straight edge thing where I never had that stuff as a part of my life, and I've watched it kind of destroy a lot of my family members over the years through other people in my family. And then I found out that there was a community called straight edge, and then came that world of acceptance, and it was like all that stuff and nobody else to share it with. I had a lot of friends that skated and were into like punk music, and some friends that like Misfits and AFI and stuff like that, but not that played. It was anyone that played was always wanting to do something else. So I just waited it out. That's literally all I did for about 3 years. I just waited it out, jammed with any and everybody I could. It was the other type of band whore. I just wanted to be in a band, so I was like, "Yep, I'll play with you. Yes, let's jam." And then came the internet, which made things way easier to find people through the community of, groups or you can go to a band's page and find friends that way and shit. And that was a very huge help in me finding people. And still, literally until about 2 years ago, the internet helped us find members that are in our band right now. So that's been a great addition to my life and helped me get to this point. But I just waited. I finally, towards senior year, came across some dudes that were more into what I was. Our original drummer Angelo was the first guy I found, and then this other dude Frank, and then this other guy Kyle, which made up the original 4 members that the band was. I had switched to playing guitar because I still felt that just singing was weird to me. I wanted to play guitar and sing because I felt that still shielded me from being like full-on vulnerability. I wanted that like little layer of barrier that separated me from the crowd and the vulnerability of being in that middle area. That obviously went away too. Now that I just sing. I found those guys. We started jamming cover songs as anything else in the past was, and we decided, okay, it's time to start writing original material. And it immediately had like the AFI vibe. It had a lot of the other dudes were influenced by bands like Under Oath and Thrice, and bands I liked at the time, but weren't really. At this point, I'm into Poison the Well, Bleeding Through, 18 Visions, Himsa, like those bands that are just like heavy, but still had that incredibly dark image. Atreyu, Avenged, all the OC bands, all the Seattle bands, etc. And
I think people often think Motionless is an OC band.
Yeah,
It's
I don't mind that if that's the case, but yeah, that's the area we wanted to fit in at. We started jamming covers, and came time to pick a name, and we had 2 names on the table, and we decided to give ourselves till New Year's morning of I think it was like maybe a month stretch for us to pick between the 2 that we had. And we ended up going with Motionless and White, which is an 18 Vision song. Well, Motionless and White, I could not tell you to this day.
I was going to say, I've never actually asked you that question, why it's slightly tweaked.
I could not tell you. I don't know. It's like when I was watching a Hellfest DVD, and I heard James say the song's called Motionless and White, and I don't know why I heard it better while I say, like, you can obviously, it shows that it's called Motionless and White, and that's what I knew the song to be. But the way he said it sounded like Motionless in White, and that
Or even like the N, like Guns N' Roses. Motionless and White.
Motionless and White.
And.
White. I just liked the way he had said it more than I read it on the screen, and I think that's why. That's my best answer. I don't know why the other guys allowed that to happen, because they were all 18V fans too. No one ever questioned it, and we just rolled with that name. And I tell people all the time, I feel that from that point till today, it should have absolutely been changed, but it just stuck. And everything that's happened under that name, it still haunts me to this day, like all of our old things that I'm not very fond of. But it is what it is. It makes up the history of the band, and it's important to our history and built the character of what the band is. You can now see a long road of progression then, instead of just like an album or two to base off where we've come from.
Yeah, and a lot of the bands that you've cited as important to you, I mean, certainly if you go back to the first few 7 inches from AFI and compare that to even a couple records later, to a couple records after that, to now, you see pretty massive evolution in sound and style, and bands that are embarrassed by certain aspects of their past that were still part of what got them there.
You can't apologize for anything you've done, and I mean, obviously you can, but I think if you're an artist, you shouldn't be apologetic about what you've done. You might not like it because it's just a portion of your past you wish that was dead and gone, but it came from you. As long as it came from you and meant something to you at that time, it's part of who you are, just like anything even before that. And I'm appreciative that I have that past, and I get to look back on it instead of that being my only venture into being a band and creating music.
So I would think that one of the things that makes this lineup, especially of the band, unique, is given that there is experience in being a frontman, drums, guitar, a lot of really well-rounded people in the band. I would imagine that gives you almost an advantage versus a lot of bands where each person is really focused and relegated on one thing.
It's incredibly helpful. I mean, I can rely on these guys to help me in our live performance. I mean, without them, I would be passed out dead on stage every night. Like Ricky and Ghost and Balls all do vocal stuff on stage that really help me get that extra breath or back me up on like a line or harmony of a part, or I can easily rely on them to learn the songs and get it down right. I don't have to really pull teeth to really get them to do their jobs. They're well versed, they're experienced, they know what they're doing, and it's very helpful as the leader, and that really sets everything in motion to be able to rely on those guys to do their job. It's awesome, and it makes our friendship thrive more because we don't have to have that tension and aggression towards like, just do your fucking job, dude, or there's never that stuff. So it's great.
And I'd be curious from the rest of you guys, as you got
Thank God I could stop talking.
as you got acclimated into being in Motionless, a lot of the bands that I love, a lot of the bands Chris loves, that he mentioned already, The Cure, AFI, Misfits. No one can take away the songwriting ability from those bands, but certainly the imagery and the atmosphere is part of it too. I'm curious, at sort of what stage in each of your personal evolutions did you get kind of turned on by that stuff and attracted to it, and how did that eventually then mesh into what Motionless is?
Should we go backwards this time?
Yeah.
The first band that I heard that kind of introduced me to that whole imagery was 18 Visions when I was probably 14. And I don't know what about them I thought was so cool. I was like, these guys look awesome. So awesome. And then at that time, it was kind of like the internet was like AOL dial-up. So I'd go on that and try and find bands that looked like them.
Ken from 18 Visions has an AOL tattoo.
Really?
I wonder how he feels about that now. I'm gonna ask him.
So, yeah, and then at that point, I was more like, I want to find bands that look like that rather than bands that sound this way. So then, I mean, fortunately, all of the bands that I found, were Bleeding Through, Himza, all of the bands that still had that kind of similar style musically. So that was my first kind of introduction to heavier music as well as the dark imagery. And then, Atreyu and It Dies Today and those types of bands came later.
And it's great to hear that because, it gets forgotten, but when 18V adopted that imagery and some of the bands they were influenced by, they were playing in a hardcore scene that was basketball jerseys, camo shorts, shaved heads, a lot of pissed off tough guys. And I can tell you that James and Brandon and some of the 18V guys are some of the toughest dudes I've personally ever known. but they would go out in front of those audiences in like, with pink hair and makeup and, velvet gloves. And they got a lot of shit for it. And it's great, though, to know that then here you were, 14 in Seattle, and seeing it and going like, that's fucking cool. It's really inspiring. And, there's someone undoubtedly looking at Motionless in White somewhere right now that's having that same
I hope so.
revelation.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes.
The crickets are so loud.
What was the question again?
Getting into the image side of it and the darkness and the atmosphere and that sort of thing. What was that? What was the beginning of that for you?
I didn't really care for the image of bands mostly until like I started hanging out with these guys and I saw like there was like a flow to the band, like they looked good while playing. Because I used to see them like before I was even a part of this, and just like hanging out with them. Then I started noticing other bands doing it and all their like types of styles of music. And I don't know. I mean, they've showed me so much besides like what I already knew growing up with like Korn and Avenged and stuff like that. More of like the underground hardcore scene, stuff like that. I mean,
Was there a Motionless makeover at some point?
For me,
Yesterday.
yes, absolutely.
There's no shame in that game. CC from Black Veil Brides, it was the same thing. Jinx actually made a Photoshop of what CC would look like in the band before they decided to hire him. They're like, yeah, that'll work.
Yeah, that's me.
Yeah, right. How about you both?
I was like I said, I was like the skater dude, but I always wore like super tight pants. But I had super giant Etnies shoes that were like clown shoes. When I started hanging out with them more, I started getting into more like the Atreyu, the Avenged, the Bleeding Through, stuff like that. And it happened from there. It was just like it started just tiny, just a little bit. Oh yeah, like try eyeliner, and then it's like eyeshadow, and I still have no idea how to do it. I watch them, like watching them still. I'm like trying to figure it out, like foundation, eyeshadow, eyeliner. But it's just so much fun to become a character, become something. Like, because in life we're so quiet. Like if you bump into us and you're just like, hi, can I have a picture? It's like, okay, And it's like on stage, it's like you're a whole different person. You wear black, you wear makeup, you wear these cool. I wear giant cloaks and like weird. I like it's like a different character, So it's like you.
Yeah, I think Alice Cooper, Manson, Rob Zombie, a lot of. I mean, it's the same thing. Soft-spoken, nice people, and it's like you become larger than life.
Yeah, it's like you put on this whole new. It's not. It's definitely. It's like you're like taking from your inside and you're just bringing it out, bringing out everything. It's like. Another persona. Yeah, so it's like. Yeah. It just grew from just little bits of hanging out with Angelo and Chris and just growing from watching Atreyu, Bleeding Through, and then getting into like more darker stuff like Cradle and Dimmu and stuff like that. So it's just been an evolution slowly. Like we've always been like that. It's never like a forced thing. It's always just been more of a natural progression.
And I think something that gets missed a lot, people that hate on this type of music or on bands that wear makeup or bands that have a particular look, it's not easy. Like, I think people look at it and they're like, oh, this band or that band, they're popular because they wear makeup or whatever. It's like, no, that first time you put on eyeliner, there's somebody in the room going, you look like an asshole. What are you doing? That sucks.
People hated us. People hated us.
I don't think people realize the resistance to really being that expressive. And I also think people forget that people tend to think of makeup as effeminate or that it's weak or something like that, as if there's anything wrong with effeminate, first of all. But second of all, it's like Mike Ness wears eyeliner, and like nobody looks at Mike Ness and is like, look at that guy. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
from the beginning, it was always like heavy bands, and then here's us, dudes in all makeup and stuff like that. So it took years and years and years for people to even take us seriously.
True story. At Chain Reaction once, I saw James Hart get sucker punched in the top of the head with a singer from 18 Visions. Sucker punched in the top of the head with brass knuckles by these dudes that were in a crew, and he chased them out of the venue, shirtless, head bleeding, blood all over his face, with like a pink or purple scarf. And it's just like, man, that guy in the scarf is gonna kick your fucking ass.
Yeah, we used to get in lots of fights.
There's that Pettibone fight on the internet where he just I thought that was like, when I saw that video I was like, yep, that's happened. Like he's got off stage before and done the same exact thing to people that have just refused to just let it go the whole show. And it has been just that built up frustration and the need for release to just stand up for ourselves. And not saying that violence is the answer, but at that point, it was. So that's what we needed to do.
You kind of just black out when you just see. You get so, because I remember this one show. There's just these kids trying to they were just trying to mosh in the middle somewhere, and this one kid was just like, he would, every time someone would go to mosh, he would just stop them, just stop. He was like this dude and his crew in Florida, just stop them every time. And like, how you not let people have fun? I think we were on tour with like Norma Jean or something like that. And I just got so mad he was throwing us the finger, and he was just stopping everybody from having any kind of fun. Anybody jumping, make him stop. And I just got so mad that I just black out, and I was just like, I remember we were on our last song, and we had these giant scrims, like they're our banners with our name on them, and we made them out of metal, which I don't know why. We had these giant, because we used to use PVC pipe.
You're about to tell everyone why.
Yeah. Oh, so I don't remember really much. I just remember the kid just throwing us the finger. I was like, all right, come up. And he came right here, and I turned around and I unscrewed one of the metal legs from one of the banners, and I chased him into the crowd and just beat him with it. Just kept beating him with
Sons of Anarchy style.
And I got thrown out of our own show.
I think they teach that in a class at Musicians Institute, actually.
Josh had to drag me back into the venue and yell at the security guard to let me back in the show.
Oh, man. Yeah, I'm going to open it up to you guys here in just a second. It's something that I was just talking about with a friend the other day. It's interesting to me that when those situations happen, right, like there's 1,000 kids in a venue, but 2 or 3 jackasses are trying to ruin it for everybody, trying to make the show about them. They're heckling, they're spitting, whatever they're doing. And if you're watching the show or looking at a video of it, it's hard to even, it's like imperceptible. And yet, when someone from the band reacts, suddenly the narrative is, Motionless in White attacks their fans. And it's like, really, why does that guy get to be a fan? They threw those fans out of the show. Like, really, those were fans? And I think that that's a real disservice to people that really are there to have a good time and to support those people try to make it about themselves.
I think that's, people need a villain in that case. And unfortunately, I've seen videos where bands that do not look like us have done the same thing and they're praised for it. But because of the target on our backs, it's just, well, we're the villain in that case, and we're the assholes that decided to stand up for ourselves because, they should just expect that shit. Or there's, a million scenarios, but I'm very frustrated by that as well. It's like, we're not allowed to stand up for ourselves and do what we feel is right, yet, it's just like when I was in high school. It's literally the same thing where, the football player dude can make crack a joke that's terrible and everyone will laugh, but if you were to say the same joke, everyone would be like, who the fuck is that kid? It's the same shit. It's amazing how high school transfers over into a lot of what happens for bands, but
then meanwhile you're on the cover of Alternative Press and you get on Facebook and find those football players, and what are they doing?
You'd be surprised how many of them have tried to. There's been a few of them that have tried to find me on Facebook, and they're like, "Yo, dude, what's up?" And
remember what great friends we were?
Yeah, exactly.
I work at the grocery store now. Come over.
I don't even write back. Like, I so badly want to be like, just say what I wanted to say, but I feel like, all right, I'll just not answer them. It's the best thing to do. But
success is the best revenge.
Yeah, I guess.
All there is to it.
Yeah. I don't know how. I think management hooked that tour up for us.
Oh, shit. I believe they approached us to see if we were interested in doing the dates, and management sent it to us, and we were like, oh, we'll think about it. No, we were just like, let's do it.
Give us no money. We will pay you to come hang out with you.
Yeah.
How much can we pay you to make this happen?
No, that was a huge band for us to go out with, because we're all huge him fans. So definite milestone in our career, for
Yeah, because
sure.
I know that like Villa picks some bands, and I was just wondering if that was like something.
Oh yeah, and as far as my understanding is, he picks all of them because they've taken Bleeding Through on tour, and
Okay.
yeah, he's very involved.
Oh,
In
shit.
That was
who
that
they
was a
tour
really
with,
cool
yeah.
thing for me to be like, because I have a poster of him touring with Bleeding Through, and it felt like because I always saw that tour and I'm like, man, how did that work? And then we got to finally be in that
It's
same.
like your song
scenario.
about carrying the torch.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah, exactly. We started tour. We did the DIY touring of booking our own tours in a van and sleeping on the floors of people's houses for a very, very long time. Like probably longer, or just about as long as we've been doing the more accommodation allowing tours. It was just, that's all we wanted to do. We just wanted to get out of our town, play, tour, do that, live that lifestyle. And we were so driven and passionate about it that we really didn't care what we had to do to make it happen. We were paying out of pocket for gas, making no money whatsoever on the shows we were doing. We had to book all of our own shows through like people that we could find on MySpace that ran venues, and it was a lot of work, a lot more work than I think bands today really have to experience. But then again, it's weird. It's a really interesting question because I don't even see bands today do that. Like, there's not a shortage of bands, but how do up and coming, just starting bands tour now? I couldn't tell you the answer to that. Like, do they go on Facebook and message promoters and say like, "Hi, can I please have a show?" Like, I don't think that's a reality anymore. It's weird to have come from that time period and now look back and be like, that was like the last era of bands
I
doing
think
that,
gas
as far
was
as I know.
also like $1.25 when we were touring.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
And I remember we used to go to
day, gas was $1.25.
we at GPS,
MySpace, rest in peace, by the way.
Yeah.
GPS didn't even exist when we started touring. I remember
Yeah.
when we used to go to Chris's house and he used this giant, I still remember, it was this giant map book about this big. And we used to open it up and draw where we wanted to go. We're like, oh, let's do this routing. And we would go and we'd circle where we wanted to go. And then we would, like he said, we would call, we would like message on Facebook. It would used to be like show trades. You know, we'll trade you a show, and then as a favor, when you come through our area, we'll book you a show. And
Yeah,
it's always
that's another thing we could tell. Like we were actually the leading booker of shows in our area. We found maybe not leading, but interband of our area wise, we booked a lot of shows ourselves.
we threw
and
like every show.
Yeah, Britt brought international acts through venues in our area whenever possible. I mean, let's be real. It was a selfish attempt to get ourselves on the show, and but we were still very active in trying to build our own hometown scene. And like I said, we did the DIY thing for years and lost so much money.
Tons.
And that's just once again, along with our old stuff, part of what makes up the character of what our band has
For sure,
become.
and I think that's an important thing for anybody who wants to start bands, manage bands, produce bands, of just doing it, and getting in a garage with your friends in high school and doing cover songs, because that's what you can do, and putting on your own shows. Because I think a lot of times the bands who don't make it are the ones who are like, we're so super talented and these songs are great, when the world owes us something. It's like, no, the world doesn't owe you anything. Like, get out there and do it. Be the local opener, and then that's how you end up touring with the national bands.
I actually have a side thing to say to that. Being on tour with bands and local bands and stuff, it's so funny to see how big of an ego people in local bands have as compared to like people from
it's
like
humongous.
Clown from Slipknot that we worked with, like one of the nicest down to earth people we've ever met. And it's just so funny how it seems like the bigger the band is, the nicer the people are. And I never understood that at all.
That's something I've learned from this side of the table. When people ask me like, what's this band like, or what's this actor like, or whatever. I learned a long time ago that typically the higher up the food chain, so to speak, that somebody is, the cooler they are. And it's the people at that B and C level who have something to prove and walk around with an entourage and treat you like dirt because you're not them. But when a Ben Affleck or a Davey Havok or whatever walks in the room, like, those people are really comfortable in their own skin, and so they're just like, hey, like, just totally chill. So I think that's a microcosm of the same thing with the local band. Like, I'm in a band, so I have to like be like I'm in a band.
I have to wear my tour laminate even when I'm not on tour.
Exactly.
It was straight the exact way that I learned everything else. Self-taught. Just I'd by no stretch claim to be a singer or be an anything. It's more I'm still attempting to do what I see as what that position of the band is. I've just adapted to what I know a front man does, and I do a lot of things that my favorite front men do. Like, my aggressive on stage persona is just a reflection of what I've learned through the people that taught me what being a front man is about, Screaming was just like, I didn't want to do that stuff, as I said, so I only started off singing, and when I talked about that talent show performance, I mean, there was no way they were ever going to allow screaming in there, so it was singing, and then I didn't want to continue to even, try to, it's so much, there's so much to the story, it's not even funny, but let me go back. I didn't want to sing. I started singing. The performance happened. I wanted to then be the front man because I loved that feeling. I never got to experience what it felt like to just play drums, ever. Actually, that's not true. Sort of did. But the front man adrenaline rush was like, it just felt like, whoa, maybe this is where I should be. I don't know. So then, I hid myself behind my guitar and still sang, but played guitar. And then the screaming thing more so came from, well, this is where the music is going, and now I've found friends that like this stuff, so I guess I kind of have to start screaming now. And there's been plenty of times where I just blew the shit out of my voice and couldn't talk for 5 days, and it was just a matter of learning and trial and error and destroying my voice multiple times to try to figure out how to do it the right way. And to this day, I still struggle if I don't sleep enough or if the weather is terrible. I still struggle. Everyone has vocal problems, but self-taught, just trying to do what I thought was how you do it, and figuring out what technique worked for me personally. So.
And I know that's a pretty common question too. And one thing I always like to recommend is there's a woman named Melissa Cross.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I've worked with her on 2 occasions.
There you go. Yeah, Chris has worked with her. Randy from Lamb of God, Dave from Throwdown, a bunch of singers from a lot of the metalcore type bands with the screaming vocals. What would you say about her? I mean, she's awesome.
She definitely approaches it from a whole different perspective. I mean, she's an old little small lady.
Yeah, I've seen her YouTube videos.
Yeah. So the way that she approaches it really gives you a different insight and perspective as to how to break the bad habits that you've formed by just trying to, scream along to a record, or just standing in a room with a microphone screaming your ass off because that's just what you want to do. She kind of made it into a science, and if you can understand that and practice her formula.
With all the songs for Puppets, like 1, 2, and 3, obviously it's about a relationship. Is there going to be a 4th one, 5th, 6th, and then, if you do make a 5th one, or a 4th one, then, what is that going to be about? Continuing?
I don't know if you're asking from a hopeful that there will be more of them standpoint, but unfortunately, if that's where you are coming from, there will not be. It's a very lengthy story about a part of my life that I lived through many years that I felt I needed to write about. Music, as we've discussed, has been my number one outlet in life, and what I've used as my way to vent about everything that goes on in here and up here. And that was just, I've always taken the approach of I need to write music as honest and sincere as I can make it. I refuse to just write something because it'll either sell or it's a trendy topic to write about, or there's been songs that I've just wanted to be fun with. There's songs on our new record that are just they're straight up my influence of horror punk music, and just wanted to write a fun song. And I think it's a very obvious thing that's just a fun attempt at writing a cool song that's just humorous. But anything that has been a serious song, which is 95% of our material, is just me wanting to really put out who I am, what I'm going through, my observations of the world, and that story is just something that has continued from the very first record all the way till the most recent one, and it has ended. I didn't want to write a third one, but I felt when we were writing the record, I was like, I really need to put an ending to this story because there are fans that have really related and identified with my feelings on that part of life, and it's definitely something that is one of my strongest, most deep feelings of things I've wrote about. So, yeah, I really wanted to give it a closing piece to just say goodbye and remove it from my life, and I feel like if I did anything more off of that, it would just be giving the situation more power, and I want to remove the power that it has had over me, and that's why it's called the grand finale. So when I first started getting tattooed, I was working in a tattoo shop and just let the artists tattoo whatever they wanted on me because I was just young and stupid. Admitting that to the fullest extent.
Let that be a lesson. If anybody can learn one thing, don't do that.
Yeah, I regret many of the tattoos that I have, but one of the things I got on my knuckles were the words "kiss, kiss." No idea why. That's just what I got. I didn't stop to think about. Oh, I'm getting my knuckles tattooed. What should I do?
So you're gonna hit somebody right in the kisser.
Yeah, right. People were like, "Is that a kiss tattoo?" or like all kinds of things, and I couldn't tell you why I got it. I was just young, stupid, and eager to get tattooed. Not even out of a rebellious way or I need to have tattoos to fit a certain image way. It was just like I want to get tattooed.
When you got your knuckles tattooed, because I think this is an important question. How many other tattoos? Like, how much more of you was tattooed?
I did have a full sleeve, and I did have a sticker collection on this arm, all of which were done. I have had pieces on my ribs too, but
I mean, you're good.
Yeah, it was not the first.
I saw a kid
did.
walking around at Warped Tour a few years ago, in shorts, flip flops, no shirt.
Yep.
He had full throat and neck tattoos, and hands and fingers, nothing else.
Yep.
It looked like he was wearing a scarf and mittens.
The Warped Tour alternative outfit. Just if you wanna be cool and impress all the Warped Tour girls, get a throat tattoo and get your hands tattooed.
Yeah, but don't tattoo anything else.
Yeah, nothing else. So I just got, for as much shit as we can talk, it's like, what can I really say? Because I did stupid stuff on myself, and
I'm wearing long sleeves because I have some horrible tattoos.
Yeah. I got Kiss Kiss on my knuckles, and then it faded, fell out really bad, and I was over it, so I always wanted to get it covered up or something, but never did. So instead of trying to be proactive about the removal or covering of that, I just wanted more tattoos. So I decided to go down to the second row. And I absolutely love the movie Lost Boys, another movie that, like music, I felt like I identify with the characters. Not that I'm a vampire, but just that world and that like outcast, misfit society of people that are all together.
There's a lot of characters.
Yeah.
You could have met the grandpa.
Yeah,
He's cool.
yeah, totally. I wanted the Lost Boys tattoo, so I got Lost Boys on my bottom set of knuckles. Without me, the tattoo artist, or any of my friends that were in the room realizing at the time that led my left hand to say something very interesting. And the very first person to have noticed was my own father, who at the time was questioning my sexuality and was very curious as to why I was wearing girls' jeans and makeup.
Nothing wrong with boys kissing boys.
Yeah, right. And then all of a sudden show up at home with a hand tattoo that says "Kiss Boys." So that was my lesson of, okay, stop the tattoo thing, dude. Like you gotta chill out and really pay attention to what's going on here. And it was a blessing in disguise for sure. I ended up getting it lasered, covered. It's all cool now. Talk to my dad, let him know what's up. I'm not sure if he still has any questions. I have worn a skirt on stage before, and he's like, "Hey, lose the dress." I'm like, all right, cool, Dad.
I have no clue what I'd be doing. Probably just working some shit jobs at home back and forth or something. I don't know.
When I met Ryan, he was working at Wendy's.
Yeah.
Sick. I was working at
Good
Kmart.
times.
I was working at Kmart.
Please tell this story, please. The why Ryan got fired from Wendy's.
Yeah. Do you want to tell it? You tell it.
Is there a statute of limitations? Is there any crime involved?
No, it was fucking stupid. So I called off work one day, and our old guitar player wanted to go meet up with some random chick, and I was with him, and he didn't tell me where we were going, and it just so happened to be the parking lot of my job, and so like 3 managers saw me just standing outside, and I got fired. That's about it.
Now he works for us. He's yet to call off. He has not been able to get into Canada, which maybe now I should look into, because maybe we've been playing at a venue and he's been hanging out outside smoking a cigarette.
For me, I don't know. I feel like I've just been with him for so long that you don't imagine doing anything else. Like the outside world just doesn't exist. I own an antique store at home, which is left field, but you can't imagine doing anything else when you invest a decade of your life doing one certain thing. So it just sums up to like, what would you do? What are you able to do? What, like, you feel like you lose all other anything. What do you do? What are your
I have a typo correction for you. Oddities Parlor.
I like to say antique store because it throws people left field. Like,
Oh, yeah.
people at home, they're like, "Are you a tattoo artist?" I'm like, "No, I own an antique store." And they're like, "Oh, okay. All right, see ya."
So like I could come to you to get some like rusty old spoons and stuff, right?
I saw like 10% of his antique store.
By my
The rest of it's
grandma.
all dead animals. So
I actually put music on the back burner for a while because my parents were up my ass about, finding a real job and being a real productive human in society. And so I ended up going to college for about a year and a half for film production, and I had a whole plan to move to LA and do something in the movie or film industry. And there was just some part of me that was like, this is not the right thing that I want to do. I want to play music. I don't want to do this. I have to play guitar. I have to do something. And so I ended up just dropping out of school, and then my parents kicked me out. And then they let me back in because I started going to bartending school as like another backup to whatever, just to kind of please them. And then that's when I got the call from Chris.
I'll show you. I'm moving to Pennsylvania.
Ryan and I smoke cigarettes and drink, but we don't do it. I mean, we smoke all the time, but as for drinking, it's kind of just we pick and choose our battles.
Yeah.
Definitely not a band that goes crazy and blacks out every night and that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So we're very tame, and I feel like we're probably one of the easiest bands to be around because of that, because we've been on tour with a ton of bands that are like that,
Yeah.
and it causes so many interband problems, and it just seems so like that would be such a hectic place to work and live and try and fulfill whatever your dream is with drunk people around you 24 hours a day,
Yeah.
So I'm very thankful that we're not like that.
I mean, you need to accept long before you attempt anything that you have to expose every bit of yourself to failure. Like you need to assume the role of failure far before you even feel it. And you're going to experience the moments where you're just like, is this really what I should be doing? You're going to experience self-doubt and every negative thing that you can, because that's what's going to build you as a person and even motivate you more. I mean, maybe that's wrong, and that's not how it is for everybody, because some bands just blow up because they get found on the internet or whatever. But for us, it was, I gave everything until I literally had about this much left to give, where we were touring and every one of us had pneumonia, had $5 to eat for the whole tour.
ramen life.
Yeah,
We've played shows in front of nobody.
yeah.
No one. We'd be
In front of the
playing-
other bands,
and
and not
still-
even them sometimes.
and still giving it like 100%, 150%. Like they're gonna care what we're doing. Like playing in front. We did a whole tour when it was just top. I feel like the most people that were there were like 25.
Yeah.
And we were always that band that was keep playing, keep playing. We did an entire tour, and after that tour, every other band on the tour stopped being a band. That's
Yeah.
how bad it was.
Yep. Some of them dropped off on the tour because they were just over it and stopped being a band right then and there.
And I think to your point about bands that just get discovered on the internet and they're instantly huge. My perspective from a bird's eye view of that, I think that's really few and far between. And I think when it does happen, the shelf life of those bands is very short.
Yep. There's
I've written, I think, a dozen of our cover stories in the last year and a half, 2 years or so, and I can tell you that all the bands I've written about that have been on the cover of AP all have similar stories of struggle and hardship, whether it's Andy Biersack living in his car out here, or, a lot of bands have gone through a lot of members and have played in front of, 20 people. Even bands that we think of as legends, I remember when Green Day came to my hometown and played a community center for maybe 40 people. And it's like, they didn't have any delusions of someday we're going to have an album that sells 10 million copies. They were just doing it.
I think if you keep yourself from having those expectations, and more so where there are just these unimaginable desires, like this is never going to happen, then, if you asked me 3 years ago that we'd be touring with Slipknot, I'd be like, yeah, that'd be cool, but let's be real, dude, never gonna happen, That now here we are, this summer we're going on tour with them, and
everybody here likes Slipknot, right?
Yeah. It's one of those things that I feel like not expecting that was gonna happen to us has led that to happen. We've never had the attitude of like, well, someday we'll be in a bus, someday we'll be playing arenas, someday. It's more like, gotta keep working to get to that point. Like, we know that if we want this to happen, we still to this day have to put more now than we did then in,
And
the struggle is real.
I don't think we still don't think we're a big band. We're always like, people are like, you guys are doing so well. And we're like, we always feel like we're still that band playing in front of 20 people. And I feel like that's like a good thing for us, is we're not like, hey,
we just walked in the room. I'm gonna need no clap.
Silence.
Okay, all right, cool, yeah. All right.
Green M&Ms, but
Oh, you should see their hospitality stuff back there. It's
socks.
super
I have socks.
extravagant.
The main objective, if there was one, was that we felt a strong disconnection from the fans when we released Infamous. We don't apologize for that record in any way. It's very much what we wanted to do musically, but I don't think the fans were ready for it. We definitely jumped into a new world of a sound that if you've heard our earlier material, you can absolutely tell that it was going there. But I think that the span of time of which it went from point A to point B really was at a very exponential rate of time. So we felt a very big disconnect from our core fan base, which are, the people that we appreciate the most, the ones that keep us alive and support our band. We, like I said, do not apologize for the record, but we really wanted to make a very dedicated effort to maintaining the integrity that we have as a band, to do what we feel is what we want to do and write the music that we want for ourselves and what fits our identity and what bonds us together overall, while really kind of sharing that with the fans and to rebuild that intimacy and connection. And I think, based on what I've seen in the feedback from the record, it's done at least a decent enough job at really rebuilding. And that's for me to explain any objective that was set out. I mean, it'll always be at the core just our desire to create and put out our art form in the way that we want to, and that's what it'll always be. But it was not without the thought in our minds to have that reconnect. So yeah, reestablish ourselves as a band and bury the mistakes of the past and things that we did not see wanting to continue in the future as people and human beings in a band and everything like that. So yeah, that's my best explanation. I mean, I feel incredibly strongly about that topic. Fortunately now, not so much than before. I think that music is more therapeutic than any type of therapy that exists in the world. Coming from personal experience, music has pulled me from so many dark places of where I've been in my life, and it's given me a purpose in life to begin with. Without music, nothing I have would have been possible. With that being said, I think there are people who do absolutely abuse that idea and think that because I'm saying this right now, that when they come up, or other bands have said similar things, they think that that is what we want to hear from you. So when fans come to us directly with topics like this, it's very unfortunate, but I'm left wondering who is sincere and who is insincere. That led me to, speak out about it publicly, and I don't know if you've seen or if you've read what I've wrote in the past about it, but I do have a very strong negative outlook on a lot of that stuff. But I do, if you can look me in the eyes and tell me that that is really how you feel and that music has helped you and saved you and pulled you from that black hole, then I will see it in your eyes, because I've had that behind my eyes, and I still to this day do. So if I can have that connection with you and I can feel it, then 100% music saved my life, and I'll be the first to admit that. So I think I think that people need to stop thinking that that is what people want to hear, and just accept that it's a form of therapy. I mean, see, now I said that music saved my life. It did. I saved my life. I'm coming from a point where I was not suicidal.
Music was a tool, but it wasn't a savior.
I was not suicidal. I'm speaking out in terms of people that are on the edge that say that the band saved their lives. Like, no, you did. But, when I say music saved my life, I was not on that edge. I was just in dark places, and that really put me in a place in life where I had a different outlook and was able to remove myself from the negativity and look at it in a very positive way. For people who are on that edge and on that brink of self-destruction, I don't think that it's the music. I think that that's the tool that you used to, enable yourself to save your own life. So I think people need to stop giving the bands the credit and give themselves some more credit and look in the mirror and, realize that it was you. So, yeah, that's my standpoint.
One of the many reasons why I love this guy, because he's been a very articulate voice on this topic. Because I can say from interviewing a lot of bands, it's kind of a dime a dozen now where a band will tell me, we've had so many kids tell us that our music really helped them and really saved their lives. And I think what's happening is there's a danger of that becoming a cliche and almost a self-fulfilling prophecy, where fans start to think that that's something bands want to hear from them. And the unfortunate thing there is that I think it starts to lose its power, because that's a really authentic thing for a lot of people. I put myself on that list too. That when people are sort of faking it because they think it's what they're supposed to feel or what they're supposed to say, it's really a disservice to people who have struggled in very real ways. And I think it was very courageous of Chris to come out and write the thing that he did and say the things that he has, because right now the safe thing to do is for bands to pretend that they're saving the world with their songs. And I think it really cheapens the truth of what you're talking about.
For me, it's the same exact thing as it has been since the very first member that we lost till this very exact situation. We want somebody that we feel fits who we are more than is somebody that's a super shredder that is the coolest dude ever. We've had opportunities to have members in our band that had tons of MySpace fans and could have hooked our band up with tons of fans because just of their solo popularity. We never went that way. It cheapens the value of the core of your band. It's just, that's not the type of integrity that we maintain as a band. So we've always wanted to go the route of finding someone that fit with us and jived with us as a person, and that's why we even went through another drummer change. We thought we found somebody that really fit with who we were, and it wasn't exact opposites, but it just didn't work out, and it was what it was. And we both agreed mutually that it was time to move on. And the guy we have now, it's really awesome because even though he's not exactly like the rest of us, he's into a totally different world of stuff. His personality is awesome, and we get along with him so well. Like, that's really all it takes for me, you know. Like, if I could find somebody that has a strong bond with us and our overall band personality, that's what I look for first and foremost. And I'll be the first to tell you, and maybe he probably won't want you to hear this, but when we first practiced with him, we were actually on our way to Australia. It was going to be his first tour. We were in need of a drummer at last minute. He didn't really know our songs. He knew some of the guys in the band. He came and practiced with us. He was going to Australia no matter what, but he came and practiced with us, and it was a fucking disaster. And I was like,
I was so scared.
oh my God.
I was like, I recommended it. I was like, oh, this dude he slays. He's so good. He's the best drummer I've ever seen. I was like, and he was from our town. I'm like, just take my word for it.
Yeah.
Don't worry about it. And he shows up and.
It really did not go well, and I hit the panic button, and I was like, we're gonna have to call the other dude back and like beg. You know, I was like meltdown moment, but I was like, you know what? Like, all the time I've spent talking to this kid before he came, and his initial tryout was okay, I'm going on the tour, and I really, you know, like it was such a weird situation, and you know, I give so much credit to him for sticking it out and, you know, going through that. The first introduction to meeting all of us was on his way flying to Australia, meeting up. I was in California writing at the time, so he flew here with these guys, and that was his first introduction to even meeting half the band. Was, okay, we're gonna jam to go to Australia in 2 days. So it was a disaster, but I knew, from talking to him long ahead of before that moment, I just vibed with him so well. Like, we were joking about shit in my humor way ahead of even meeting each other. And I was like, all right, we really don't have a choice, but I want to see where he could go. And every day he put forth an effort that showed me that he cared about wanting to have a position in the band. And now the dude rules. He's so solid. We're very happy to have him be a part of the band. He brings another element to our personality that we don't have, and that's because he's not exactly into the things that we're into, and it's so cool to have that outside source to help the personality of our band thrive and grow as a
I think the moral to that story is be a good musician, but be a good person.
Exactly.
It's
Yeah,
lost,
that's what we're about. On many occasions, I have either fallen off or through the stage. Same. I think that's actually the same for many of us. I mean, forgetting the words sometimes is embarrassing, but fortunately, you could just pretend like you put the mic up. To this day it happens. I'm like singing along and I forget the words, and you're just like, and it, you know, it's the easiest thing. I could get away with anything because if I fuck up, you probably don't really notice. Like, if these guys miss a note, you're like, oh shit, that dude fucked. But for me, I could just mouth something, you know, sing. And it just, yeah, I could get away with it. But falling.
Like some of the veteran singers, as they get older, when they can't hit the note, it's just a little bit.
Oh yeah, yep.
Yeah.
Mine was probably, we were in Texas one time, and the stage was kind of set up like this, where it was trapezoidal, I guess is the correct shape term.
This is more of a
he went to college.
But the way that the stage was set up, it was like two sides connected to the middle part, and I stepped back and fell through this crack where the two stages meet, and my leg was stuck in between the two stages for a full song, and I'm still playing, trying to pull myself out. And I asked if anyone had ever had filmed it, because it was years ago and I wanted to see it. I just wanted to see my reaction right before I fell through. And no one has ever sent me a link or anything. I've never found it, so maybe that will happen now.
So if anyone who watches this online, if you have that video.
Probably just falling through a stage. That's happened a couple times. Or just not back in the days where we had to set up our own shit, there was a show that I didn't play the entire set because my gear wouldn't work. So I spent the whole set troubleshooting.
I remember it.
And it didn't.
His amp turned on like literally the last 30 seconds of the set. Finally, and then just boom, and that's it.
I think, yeah, just falling through the stage. I've had a time where I've ripped my pants like right in the crotch area, just straight open. But yeah, like I've watching our gear fall. Like there's some stages that aren't wood. They're like that. I don't know, like prefab stages, and we like we're always like, we're always like rocking out, whatever you call it. And we would be jumping on the stage and just watch. I remember our entire bass rig just went right on the ground. So it was like, oh, cool, sick. It was just like hanging by the power cord, still working somehow.
There was a moment, one of my favorite embarrassing moments ever, as Ricky. We were playing the song America in some venue in Alabama, and he just went to go start playing the solo, and I don't remember what happened. Something, I don't know if you played it wrong or what.
I played, the first note I hit was the wrong note, and I was already having an awful day that day, and I hit the wrong note, and I just walked off stage.
He just left, literally left. I was like, hey, where the, what?
I was like, fuck this. This day sucks. I'm out of here. And I just walked off stage. So.
Must be nice.
It's rock and roll. I'm glad that there's still bands who will put that much truth into their performance that if you're having a super shitty day, you just walk off stage. Because, a lot of bands are so rehearsed and choreographed. Like, sometimes you got to grab a pipe and jump off the stage. Hypothetically.
Yeah. I think people forget that it's still rock and roll.
Thank you so much for coming and for waiting outside and for supporting Motionless and White Alternative Press. Seriously, thank you. Woo.